Could any two places have been more different, he asked himself? Could any two places have been more the same? Human nature, the great constant, surely persisted in spite of all surface differences. One snaking frontier had made him what he was, he found himself thinking. Had he come here to another such unstable twilight zone in order to be unmade? The Indian Foreign Minister, Swaran Singh, touched his arm. It's long enough, he said. It really is not safe to stand still here for very long. For the rest of his life, Max would remember that instant during which the shape of the conflict in Kashmir had seemed too great and alien for his Western mind to understand, and the sense of urgent need with which he had drawn his own experience around him like a shawl. Had he been trying to understand or to blind himself to his failure to do so? Did the mind discover likeness in the unlike in order to clarify the world or to obscure the impossibility of such clarification? He didn't know the answer, but it was one hell of a question. He had begun to look for allies in Washington and had found a few. The National Security Advisor, George Bundy, his eventual successor, Walt Whitman Rostow, and the man who would follow Max to New Delhi after the scandal at Chester Bowles. Bundy learned that the Ayub was president of Pakistan at the time, the Ayub-China relationship was significantly closer than either would admit, and advised Lyndon Johnson that India, the largest and potentially most powerful non-communist Asian nation, was the biggest prize in Asia. That on account of the United States handing $700 million in military aid to Pakistan, that prize was in danger of being lost. The tail was wagging the dog. Rostow agreed India is more important than Pakistan, and Bowles argued that America's unwillingness to arm India had pushed the late Jawaharlal Nehru and now his successor Lal Bahadur Shastri into the Russians' arms. Only when it became clear that they were not prepared to give India this assistance did India turn to the Soviet Union as its major source of military equipment. Johnson remained reluctant to favour India. We ought to get out of military aid to both India and Pakistan, he replied. However, Max's Washington contacts charged him to discuss urgently on the front burner what India wanted most: to purchase American supersonic fighter jets in significant numbers and on advantageous terms. Sitting on carpets and cushions in the Dachigan hunting lodge, laughing and drinking in the intermissions between the acts of the play being performed by the travelling players of Dachigan, Ambassador Maximilian Ophuls, the Flying Jew, the man who had flown the Bugatti racer to safety, murmured to the Indian Foreign Ministry delegation about the various ways in which it might be possible to structure a deal for the high-speed jets. Then Bunyi Kol Naman came out to dance, and Max realized that his Indian destiny would have little to do with politics, diplomacy, or arms sales, and everything to do with the far more ancient imperatives of desire. Just as the dancer Anarkali, dancing the sorceress's dance in the Shish Mahal, the Hall of Mirrors at the Mughal court, had captured the Crown Prince Salim's heart in the 16th century, just as the actress Madhubala dancing in the hit movie, the same story, had bewitched millions of gaping men. So Bunyi in the hunting lodge at Dachigan understood that her dance was changing her life. That what was being born in the eyes of the moonstruck American ambassador was nothing less than her own future. By the time he got to his feet and applauded loudly and long, she knew that he would find a way to bring her to him. That all that was left for her to do was to make a single choice, a single act of will, yes or no. Then her eyes met his and blazed their answer, and the point of no return was past. Yes, the future would come for her, the messenger descending from the heavens to inform the mere mortal of the decision of the gods. She needed only to wait, to see what form the messenger would take. She put the palms of her hands together, touched her fingertips to her chin, gazed at and then bowed her head before the man of power, and had the feeling, as she left his presence, that she wasn't leaving the stage, but making an entrance on the greatest stage she had ever been allowed to walk upon. That her performance was not ending, but beginning, and that it would not end until her life ran out of days. It would be up to her to ensure that her story had a better ending than the 16th century court dancers. Anarkali's punishment for the temerity of loving a royal personage was to be bricked up in a wall. Bunyi had seen the movie, in which the filmmakers had found a way of allowing the heroine to live. The Emperor Akbar, relenting, had and a tunnel constructed under her tomb to allow Anarkali to escape into exile with her mother. A lifetime's exile wasn't much better than death, Rooney thought. It was the same as being bricked up, only in a larger grave. But times had changed. Maybe in the second half of the 20th century it was permissible for a dancing girl to bag herself a prince. The embassy aide, Edgar Wood, floppy-haired, tall, pale and skinny, with a large permanent zit on his right cheek to hint at his ridiculous youth, and the feeble shadow of a Zapata moustache to confirm it, was a former graduate student of international relations at Columbia who had followed Max to India at the ambassador's special insistence. The reason for this was not Wood's brilliance or industry, though he was indeed smart and a quick learner known at Columbia as Eager Wood, a nickname he brought with him into the embassy. No, the reason Wood was indispensable was that he would do anything the ambassador needed done and keep his mouth shut. It wasn't easy to find the perfect setup man, the loyal go-between, the faultless fixer. But without such a person, it was impossible for a man in the public eye to lead the kind of life that Max's nature compelled him to lead. He had his own nickname for Wood. In his eyes, the kid was not so much an eager or a beaver, but of course he never told him so. The first time he had broached the subject of his assignations with women and his need for a discreet assistant, Beaver Wood volunteered immediately. "Just one question, sir," he asked Max. "Do you have a bad back?" Max was puzzled. No, he answered. His back was fine. Wood bobbed his head in approval, apparent relief. "Excellent," he said, "because too much sex and a bad back is what got the president assassinated." This was strange, Max thought, and also evidence that Wood was a more interesting fellow than his raw young looks had yet found. The truss, sir, Wood explained. Kennedy's back was bad to begin with, but it got so much worse because of all the screwing around that he had to wear the truss all the time. He was wearing it in Dallas, and that's why he didn't fall over after the first shot hit him. He was wounded and lurched over, and the truss just sat him up again. And when the second bullet blew off the back of his head, you see what I'm saying, Professor? Maybe he'd had less sex. He maybe wouldn't have been wearing the truss, and then no boy, he'd just have fallen flat. The first bullet wasn't fatal, remember? He wouldn't have been, as they say, available for the second shot if Johnson wouldn't be present. And there's a moral in there somewhere, I guess. But as you know, you have a bad back, Professor, it doesn't apply to you. In the hunting lodge at Tachigana, Max Opals, reclining on carpets and cushions, leaned backward, away from the Indian foreign minister, to whisper to Edgar Wood, "Get your details." And Wood replied, "Sir, Anarkali, allegedly buried in Lahore, Pakistan, and her real name was either Nadra Begum or Sharful Nisa. Prince Salim gave her the love name Anarkali, meaning pomegranate bud, sir." Max frowned. "Not the damn character, Wood. Not the damn apocryphal historical figure." Wood grinned. "I'm on it, sir. I'm just messing with you." Max tolerated such cheekiness. It was a small price to pay for the services Wood so uncomplainingly, even enthusiastically rendered. He turned back to the foreign minister, Swaran Singh, a soft-spoken man of simple habits whose charm and erudition were as great as Max's own, and whom Max had begun to like very much. Swaran Singh wanted to offer his own reaction to the dance piece. "You see, Akbar was remarkably tolerant of Hinduism," he said. Indeed, his own wife, Delabai, Salim's mother, remained a practicing Hindu throughout their marriage. Interesting that class difference was where he drew the line. Suggests that as a people, social order matters more to us than religious belief. Just like the English, eh? No wonder we hit it off so well. Max laughed obligingly. By the way, added Swaran Singh, who was known for his strict moral rectitude, but was also a shrewd man who knew the effectiveness of a shock tactic, did you by any chance notice that young woman's breasts? He let out a loud guffaw, which Max, for the sake of Indo-American relations, felt the need to emulate. "National treasures," he replied seriously, using much self-control to conceal his deeper feelings, but fearing that Swaran Singh had noted the powerful involuntary reaction he had gone fishing for. "Integral parts of India," he added, for good measure. This set Swaran Singh off again. "Ambassador," the foreign minister chuckled,